Welcome back to another week of Every Day We're Covering. Chris Parks, S.J. Munoz with you once again to talk some sports. And we're kind of in the off-season here, unfortunately. We kind of talked about that, alluded to it before, with the finals winding down and the other sports that were still going on with hockey and college baseball. That's all said and done. And we're starting to get into a little bit of Olympic mode. There's been all kinds of trials stuff going on and teams getting qualified and that type of thing. And just some of the other off-season news that goes on with trades and whatnot. But it is, for our purposes, a rather quiet time on the front. Not a lot of whole things to bet on, and not a lot of whole things to pay attention to as far as the major sports are concerned, SJ.
Well, in years past too, I still catch what I can, but I was always, Wimbledon was kind of something I always set my clock to, in my younger days. Just, it's kind of the time difference was a benefit in this case. You got to, get up at 8 or 9 and watch tennis at least for the most of the afternoon. But these days the schedule doesn't allow, so I'm not as locked in as I used to be. Like I said, I'll catch a match here or there, but it's not as easy even to, I was hoping maybe a couple plays here and there, but I'm just not confident enough with the the kind of the way the sports turned over the last couple of years. A lot of new names and faces, at least to me. So we'll have to probably let that one go, and maybe we'll just go and try to pick the overall winner here, and when we get to the semis or something like that.
Yeah, it is always a fun event to keep an eye on. Of course, you kind of get some of the fun side stuff that goes on there with all the celebrity hoopla, who attends what matches and those types of things. But it sounds like it's been pretty interesting so far. I saw a little story earlier today that Novak Djokovic was kind of getting into it with the crowd a little bit after a match here today. So that's always fun when you get some little wild interaction. I didn't read all the details, but you know how those things can go if you've ever paid attention to when somebody gets a little bit chirpy. It doesn't take much at those events.
Well, in certain sports too, with a tennis or a golf, it doesn't take much to start kind of getting the ire of the athletes there. So I've always been a fan of tennis. So I know no disrespect, but at the same time, it's like it can be a little bit rabbitier for me. It's a little too touchy sometimes. I'm like, man, you want to you're packing an arena there with thousands of people. There's going to be a little bit of noise that you're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, you're going to get a couple of wackos, that's for sure. That's how that goes. I just, kind of a side topic the other day, I did finally sat down and watch that King Richard show the other day with the Williams thing. That was interesting. I mean, it did give you a little bit of insight into kind of that world a little bit, and obviously it's a... Yeah, you get deep into the weeds there if you're getting into, your child being that good at something and wanting to make that type of leap. And it happens at such a young age to start with that it's a pretty wild sport behind the scenes, I think.
Yeah, and just you kind of figure, a lot of times 15, 16, it's like you're ready, you're a full-time professional athlete. And by the time you're 25, it's like kind of washed up. It's just an interesting timeline. And you can imagine the pressure you're under and just like kind of having to grow up so fast. I'm sure it's not an easy thing to do, but it does happen a lot. So
yeah, and that'll happen in a lot of things that we watch. Of course, when the Olympic Games come up here as well, it's kind of the same thing. A lot of those sports, you're on the younger side of the scale for sure. As we get started here on the program, before we dive in any more, we always like to let you know what we are sipping on here as well. SJ and I did have the good fortune to actually meet up for a little bit here over the holiday weekend, so that was nice to kind of connect for a little bit and hang out. And of course, a couple of beverages drank there along the way as well. But I'm sure since you were stepping out of your home area there, you're probably trying to track something down. So what are you sipping on over there?
yeah, well, unfortunately, the pack I picked up there didn't make it home. Some got lost or something. I don't know what happened to it. So I did give at least a shout out to Nebraska Brewing Company because I sampled a few of theirs over the weekend. But I was able to grab 2 Pitchers Brewing. I've seen them, but I haven't tried any of them. But the Weekender is what I ended up grabbing. It's just another kind of up our alley. The kind of the passion fruit guava citrus radler deal here. Pretty good, but the interesting thing I've noticed about this, it's definitely, it says, a lot of people claim like, oh, it's all real ingredients, no, none of that stuff. Like it's kind of like them old school orange juices where you can see the pulp and all that stuff. Like they ain't messing around with this. It literally is like real ingredients. So I do appreciate that, but gotta be careful there and get a little chunky at the bottom.
Yeah, obviously not filtered very
Right,
heavily
right.
there. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that sounds like definitely a unique one. I alluded to this last week. I did have another one hanging on in the fridge, and I did get one to survive up until now, so I could drink it here on the show. But the folks at Big Grove Brewing, which I have shouted their praises quite a bit, and I know you were drinking a couple of those citrus surfers over the weekend too that I've talked about before. But they have one right now that's out, and this is kind of this is almost getting hyper regional here because it actually is homage to a certain neighborhood in the city of Des Moines. It's called the Sherman Hill Champagne Light Lager, and there's a little nook of Des Moines there that was kind of started by some of the the wealthy folks that got Des Moines rolling. Hoyt Sherman was a banker that had a lot to do and built a big kind of palace mansion looking over the city center there in that district, and it's on the National Historic Register for the whole neighborhood now. By the way, if you ever get a chance to go see a show at Hoyt Sherman Place, which is the home that he built, there was a big kind of theater inside of it, and they do concerts there now. Go do it because it's an awesome venue. It's really cool, tight quarters and just kind of the old architecture feel. So that's fun. But anyways, it is a good beer. They did a good job with it, and I can see how they kind of went for this style when they were kind of paying homage to that old school area because it's kind of an old school beer. It's just that you think champagne, of course, you always think of Miller High Life, and I would say that it's got a little bit of that that little bit of that tinge to it, a little bit of that taste. But it is good. It's good light and perfect, summertime crack open after you mow the yard type of beer. So yeah, shout out to Big Grove. So that's what we're pouring down here this week as we get rolling here on the show. We already kind of touched on a little bit of the tennis front there for a moment. One little quick nugget along with that I did see that they've kind of been talking about and testing the waters if you follow the sport much at all. In the major tournaments, they play for the men best of fives. For the women, it still says the best of three, but best of fives are for the men. And they were asking Novak Djokovic the other day if he would be cool with hey, we think they should change it to three. And he was kind of the opinion that he thought that the later rounds should still stay the best of fives, and then maybe the early rounds would be okay with the best of three. But we were kind of chatting before we got started here, for a guy that's getting up there in age, best of three would probably be to his advantage. Really, he's not going to be outlasting folks as much anymore. But it is an interesting topic, and I think it's been kind of broached before. But as time goes on, you try to look for efficiencies and things, and that's probably what they're looking at there. Try to trim some of that down a little bit.
Well, I think it's more the long range view, so it's probably easier to do it now looking back than in the moment. But even just as your career and just extending that, like you said, you would think, what does it matter if you're beating someone, 6'2", 6'1", or 6'2", 6'1", 6'3"? Like, like if you're smoking them, you're smoking them. Like you've kind of proven that point there. So I mean, if as a player myself, I'd be like, the quicker to get the victory, that I'd be all for that. I don't know. It's probably just more of this has almost been like something that comes up almost an annual basis, and it seems like Wimbledon, especially with the all white things, kind of been challenged. I know there's been some attire choices that they've kind of vetoed and said you can't wear that, you can't wear this. So maybe it's more of this setting, and just seems to these issues seem to come up there. But I mean, I think I'd be for it. I don't think it's anything better, I guess, unless maybe you feel like you're gonna maybe they think it's more of a level playing field there in the men's bracket where they think it's a guy could pull off a two set victory and pull an upset where they don't really want that. It's kind of a sport where you do want the the big names to last as long as they can. When it's a one and done deal, it's like crap. Are they going to watch now? I mean, it's cool for the number 32 seed or someone that got a wild card in to upset them, but then after that, what do you got there? And kind of shakes up the whole tournament. So I'm sure that plays into it as well. The committee, they're wanting the big names in it as long as they can. But I would for me, the less work and you're still getting paid handsomely, the less work, the better. That's the way I'd look at it.
And it is interesting you bring that up. They kind of positives from both sides there, obviously. If you're keeping the stars around, that's what they want in those tournaments. But, it's just like everything else, I think. We've done with baseball with the pitch clock and we're just trying to make things more palatable for the average fan. And sometimes those matches can drag on for an awfully long time. I mean, it's fun to see those guys when they go the distance and are, they got nothing left in the tank and they're trying to get it done. But at the same time, there's not many people who are going to sit down and watch an entire, 3.5, 4 hour tennis match. So it is. I see the positives of kind of maybe trying to shorten that down a little bit. It'd be interesting to see if they ever get any traction on that front down the road.
Well, I mean, kind of speaking of that, they were like one of the last majors to go to a 5th-set tiebreaker. They had, I mean, it's probably been about maybe at least 10 years now, something like that, close to it. I mean, it's hard to remember, last year, let alone 10 years, but it's been several years. But I mean, there was a match that was like, God, I don't even want to put the number on it, but it was like 32-34, like in the 5th set, because they had no tiebreaker. They just had to keep playing until somebody won 2 in a row and could get the victory. So they changed that. I think it was the year after they had adjusted that. And of course, you can go look up the dates exactly. Can't quite remember, but I do remember it being like a crazy, like so many games that record's not going to be broken, so it's still there. But you mentioned palatable too, and that's I kind of lean that way just because I can't even. That has been every time I'm watching it, no matter where, if I'm at home or somewhere else, like I'm kind of into it, and everyone just like, I don't get the scoring. I don't get the score. It's like, bro, like it's so freaking annoying. Like, Jesus, I understand. Like, it's kind of like. It is kind of goofy now that the love and the 15-30 and all that stuff. But I'm just like, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2. Like I wouldn't mind seeing that adjusted. It's never going to, because that'd be like kind of taking like something a ball and a strike out of baseball or something like that. You kind of got to keep with the tradition. But that is something that, I mean, I swear, like. Without fail, anytime I'm watching anywhere, it's brought up. I'm like, God, like it's not that complicated. Like, dude, like, but it's. I mean, it's a common theme. So it wouldn't happen, but it wouldn't be like. I don't think it's bad to maybe if there was some adjustment ever made, but I just can't see it happening. It's too much like that's kind of like the like what you think of when you think of tennis is like love, or game set match. That's like the first things that come to your brain. So.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, that's interesting. I could see that from a lot of people not understanding fully, and of course the whole service deal and all that sometimes can get a little goofy to figure out. But it is definitely a different mold of a sport for sure. We do have a few kind of basketball things that we jotted down just to touch on real quick here. There's nothing kind of major, but one thing I saw today, of course, the couple of sagas for the Lakers here during the offseason that have been interesting, like general sports topics, because, of course, they went after Dan Hurley. It was kind of no secret that that's who they wanted to come be their next head coach, and he decided that wasn't the route that he wanted to go. He wanted to stay in the college game, and he's got a good thing going there at UConn, and you can't blame him. And it's working out pretty well for him, because UConn came back and said, you know what, we just gave you a raise last year after you won a second consecutive national title, but we're going to go ahead and give you another one. 6 years, $50 million now is his new deal. The interesting thing I saw in the story, though, is that it moves his base annual salary to $400,000. With incentives. So I'm like, there must be a hell of a lot of incentives built into this deal if we're talking $50 million going from just $500,000 a year. So I'm sure it's built on wins and conference stuff and all that nonsense. But he's obviously getting paid handsomely, and it's not too far off really from what he probably would have made in the NBA. It's a little less, but overall, if that's not what you wanted to do, then the guy's making out pretty good, I think.
One can kind of call his shot now too. It's they're not going to get rid of him anytime soon. Even he'd have to have a hell of a drop off for them, to get fired. And I'm sure it's those incentives are more something to the effect of keeping staying there and not maybe flirting with another job. And a lot of the talk was like he's probably just using this as leverage. But that did seem kind of wild considering like he didn't really need a new deal. Like it's not like I mean, of course everybody wants to make more money. Don't get me wrong. Even people that have a lot of money still want more money. Like it's never enough. But still, like, it wasn't like kind of came out of left field and kind of happened quick. So that's where you thought maybe there was something there. So maybe he was actually interested, but they came back with a deal that, maybe was kind of agreed to, but not, not official, not signed, sealed, and delivered type thing. So that could be it. But I don't know. Interesting, I guess, maybe a bad look in the end for the Lakers just to be that public about it. I thought was a little bit wild when you heard when it was coming out like that, you're like, oh, he's probably going just because usually it doesn't much info doesn't get out if somebody's not pretty much damn near a done deal.
Yeah, and of course, with the guy that they did end up hiring, it's been a little bit kind of a weird talking point because there was a lot of hands involved in making that happen, and a guy that hasn't coached, he obviously knows basketball but hasn't coached. Made a little bit of a gaffe there in his introductory press conference as well by dropping an F-bomb, which wasn't necessarily probably the thing he should do. But yeah, that whole deal's been interesting too. I don't know how that developed or came about, but it wasn't handled very well.
Yeah, it's just kind of one of those, as someone that would like to see the team do well, is more of this like another wasted few years there, is that way I would look at it. And we kind of, it's always been, it's not like it's a secret, but, kind of know who's calling the shots, and even more so now these days, especially with, probably another topic we'll touch on here. Just we kind of know who's pulling the strings there. And as, anybody that wants, is following that team or, is a fan of that squad, it's not a good thing in this case.
Yeah. And as you alluded to, it has been super kind of controversial, I guess, from different people's perspectives on the Lakers drafting LeBron James's son, Bronny, who obviously, didn't really prove to folks in the collegiate level that he was going to be a next NBA star. Now, that doesn't necessarily always mean that doesn't translate either. We've seen plenty of guys that you didn't think were going to, were great college players, but turned out to be great fits in the NBA. So I'm not saying.
Or the opposite, thought they were going to come out and light the league on fire, and they're out of it in 2 years. So
yeah. But obviously, we knew that this was the case. I mean, he publicly had said it before the kid was even in college. Like, I want to play with him someday. So you knew it was going to happen. If he's going to stay in LA, yeah, they're going to go get him. They're going to bring him there to make him play with him. So I think, from my perspective, just the fact that it was known for so long, and that's the superstar that you have, and that he's going to demand that. I don't know what there is to really be too upset about. I mean, it is what it is. You knew it was coming.
Yeah, I don't think you can be surprised, or it was kind of strange how many people were like that, like they were so like worked up about it. It's like it's been meant how long, everybody knew if he was there and they had the chance, they were going to take him. I'm not saying it's a wise move, and I think especially drafting, with he's got his dad being on the team already, it's not like they couldn't pick him up as a free agent. He could still be on the team. So that was maybe the thing. I was like, you didn't really have to draft him. Could have still got him one way or the other. That was the only thing that kind of stuck out to me, is because I suppose they wanted that moment, but it's not like it was in the first round and they had like the big ceremony or anything. So it's, I don't know, not a smart move, but it's not like we didn't see it coming. So just if they want to throw another season away, then I guess go ahead and so be it.
Go ahead and do it. The thing that was a little bit, and some people pointed this out, and I think it is legitimate, is the fact that they ended up giving him some like guaranteed money, as part of the deal. And it's like, you didn't need to do that at all. I mean, you're doing that because and LeBron, of course, comes out, oh yeah, look at the less money that I took, makes himself look better kind of thing over the years. But, it's still coming into the family household. That cash is all ending up in the same boat. So, that was the part of it, I think, that kind of got people ired a little bit. And I understand that.
Yeah. Who knows? Probably, he's going to make the team is the problem is. It's like, taking a spot that maybe and it'd be one thing too if like it was like, oh, they're coming off a championship or just played for one, 2 out of the last 3 or something, and they're like in a situation where it's like, oh, we're kind of rolling now, that's okay, we'll just let him kind of play a little bit with his dad and kind of get learn the ropes, or maybe you can turn out to be a decent player or something. But now it's like you kind of need players. Like you're not in a situation where it's like, oh, we can just jack around and just pick whoever and have a little bit of a sideshow and just maybe a little bit of reality television show here as part of the season. Like they're kind of in a spot where they're kind of treading with being like a forgotten. They're not going to just show up to town like, oh, the Lakers are coming to town, but who cares? Like, we're going to kill them by 20 points. Like, it's not like this. That happens to all the big. We see it with even the Cowboys recent years, Yankees, like just those those storied franchise. It doesn't come to you just because you put that shirt or hat on. Like you gotta keep busting your butt and earning your wins and championships.
Yeah, far cry from being a dominant team. So that's definitely what makes it a little bit more controversial.
I think probably more people watched that Winning Time show last year than Lakers games. At least the fans did. At least you knew we're gonna see a victory here or there. Be a little bit better than the regular season.
Yeah, wild stuff. On the basketball front as well, I just wanted to mention is because I saw that the other day, of course, the whole Olympic lead up stuff's been going on now with some teams trying to get their qualification in for the Paris Olympics, and Giannis ended the run for old Luka. Luka's had one hell of a year. But Greece knocked off Croatia, so Luka Doncic's squad is knocked out, and they're not going to make the Olympic Games, which I'm sure for folks running the Olympics is not something they love, because you'd love to have another star there to draw some eyeballs. But for a guy that's played as much basketball as he has in the last year, he's probably deserved a break that he needs.
Well, that's like, any Mavericks fans probably aren't too bent out of shape by that either. Just, injuries obviously were a big time problem for him last year. So maybe get a little bit of rest before the season. I know it's not a huge break, but something better than nothing. And speaking of the Olympics, got to give a little shout out to my boy Tominaga. He did make the Japan Olympic team. So with Hachimura, who plays for the Lakers, coincidentally.
Oh, nice.
So they have I'll be watching a few of those games pretty close. Actually, I do think Jack McVeigh, who played for Nebraska back a few years ago, probably 5, 6, 7. I believe he made the Australian team as well. So I'll have a couple of international teams I'll be watching closely as well.
Nice, yeah, that is cool. And I saw too that didn't he sign some sort of deal in the league?
Yeah, with the Pacers. It's one of those weird, like I don't even know what, but it's more of a legit deal than just like a 10-day something.
Yeah,
like I
not
guess
like a summer
they
league
they got
thing
the
or
rights
something.
to him, and then there's like he can enter into a 2-way contract, which is a little bit more. There's a little more concrete to that, so you're not just kind of a fly-by-night guy. So yeah, it's kind of one of those weird things. Honestly, I was trying to get through. I was like, I don't even know what the hell they're talking about. As lawyers speak and all of this agent talk. So, but yeah, it's a little bit more of a legit contract than just like a tryout or something. But he's still obviously got to prove yourself, got some work to do. And I mean, sure, you think about it, it's like, man, basketball is just one of those sports that there's not a lot of roster spots.
There's a lot of people that play that are good. You watch the how many Division I teams there are in this sport in college. So yeah, that's tough.
More like a fit thing too. A lot of times, it's just like freaking the kind of catch on at the right place.
Yeah.
I mean, with football, we talk about position too a lot, but just like basketball is even more so than that.
Yeah. Well, and I just saw that. I don't know if I mentioned this before. Maybe I already had, but I saw that the other day. Paul George made a comment on his show about a guy that used to play for Iowa State, and Deontay Burton, who was just kind of one of those athlete type guys. He could just jump out of the gym. He's a big, strong dude. And he's like, when he was there, like I was kind of like to the coaches, like, why does this guy not play? Like, I don't understand. He's like does everything you want in practice. He does all the right things. He's like, I thought he was kind of like the Zion before Zion, just the way he was built, the way he played. But never got that shot really that much, and it never panned out for him. So yeah, sometimes it's just being in the right location and yeah, being in the right position too, not covered up by somebody that's already got a big deal, and you get a chance to make your mark. And that's what a lot of these guys look for, is just give me a chance somewhere and see if it happens.
Yeah, it's not even something that you do wrong either. A lot of times it's just the fortunate break here or there. Sometimes we've all had freaking asshole bosses. Maybe you just had one too, and then, and he gonna, especially when it comes to like professional sports. The coach is probably gonna trust another coach more, unfortunately, more so than like a player or their agent or whoever. So, or even just the owner or GM, if you have kind of a bad relationship there, like they can sully your name pretty quick there, and then it's probably really hard to recover from that.
Yeah. Yeah, it is definitely interesting, and it's just cool though when you see those guys that you have followed, through a smaller portion of their career, to get that opportunity and have a chance. Obviously, at Indiana, a guy like Tyrese Halliburton, who has become a star, we didn't really know that was going to happen coming out of his time at Iowa State. So it's just fun to see that. I happened to be on a flight earlier this year too with a guy who played on the team last year in Ames. Hassan Ward, who got a chance to get like a summer league tryout at least, with the Kings. So I was like, that's cool, because when I talked to him, he was just pretty much like, yep, whatever. Whatever they're gonna let me do, I'm gonna do it and see what happens. He's like, I'll go overseas if that's the thing to do, or I'll play here. He's like, I'd love a shot at the league, but he was kind of smart and open to that. And I think sometimes that part of it's hard for guys too. You really want to get your chance in the league, but sometimes maybe that's not the best option either.
Yeah, it's just gotta. I mean, I guess you want to say pay your dues or whatever, but I don't know if that's the term I would use. But you just gotta, if it's really something that's your dream or your life goal, sometimes you just gotta kind of stick it out a little longer. And that shows something too. The fact that you're willing to go someplace that's totally foreign to you, or maybe work a couple jobs and play someplace like a small minor league here in the States or something like.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's just, I guess there's opportunity out there, but you just gotta kind of don't give up on that dream if it's really what you want to do.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of that weird thing, between like the situation with the G League, which has gotten a little bit better, but then going overseas. I mean, you can make so much more money if you go
Right.
overseas and play, and then some of these guys, if they stay, and then the type of games are totally different. It's the European games much more of that team sport that we kind of think as a college level, whereas in the G League it's kind of everybody's out for themselves. They want to prove what they can do. So it's interesting. It definitely is a weird thing to navigate, I think, for those guys. So you always love to see when they have a chance to succeed a little bit.
Well, I've never been to a game there, obviously, but you see videos and stuff online when it goes to like basketball and in Europe and Asia and just even some other continents. It's like I liken the crowds more to like a college
Yeah.
atmosphere here, where it's a little bit more like a little bit more what do you want to call it? It was a little bit more like kind of they feel like they're part of the team, part of
Yeah, it's
they have
camaraderie
a
kind of
rooting.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like they got a tie in, and it's not a little less commercial than
Mm-hmm.
what the pro sports are here. It's not all about the Bud Light ads and the freaking playing a song every time up and down the court. No, I mean it's a little bit more like kind of it's right there in your face. I think that'd be kind of fun. I
Yeah.
get that the best league and the best players is the NBA, of course, when we're talking about basketball or NFL for football. But some of these other countries, the atmosphere is I'd take that over these canned pro sports any day of the week. And that's, I mean, we've said it before. That's a lot of the reason I don't gravitate to some of the pro sports, is because it's just it's a little bit stale when it comes to like the passion for the game from the just the stadium and the setup. And don't get me wrong, it's of course it's the best athletes in the world in most cases, but
Yeah.
as far as the presentation, I prefer like kind of like that more. The college, like the tradition, just that type of thing.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with you. We're definitely on the same page on that front. One other quick topic I wanted to throw out there before we jump into kind of just an off topic. It's been kind of, it seems to me lately like there's been a rash of some of these professional athletes once again reverting to stupidity. Um, I know this has happened. If the history of time, yeah, athletes we usually know tend to be some people that get in trouble sometimes, and but it just seems like lately it's been a little bit more of the severe variety, and maybe that's because the punishments are catching up with the crimes these days. Maybe that's part of it. But I saw a story earlier today. Cameron Sutton, who is a defensive back for the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's been suspended for 8 games due to violating league conduct policies. He was involved in some domestic assault or assault charges type things. So just not being wise, obviously, when you're in a situation that most people would kill to be in. Of course, Rashee Rice, we're still waiting on what that ruling is going to be for the Chiefs. He's probably going to be out for a long time because of, his misdealings, just being an idiot driving a car. So it's, you see these things a lot. And hell, we've seen it at the college level too, with the whole Georgia nonsense. So it just kind of unexplainable sometimes why you would make these decisions, but it certainly seems like it has been an uptick lately.
Well, and I do, of course, this has been the case for, ever since we've been carrying our phones in our pockets, but it's just like it's harder to get away with stuff too. And the public eye is even more expanded, but not even just phones, but like you think about it, like everyone's got a camera on either their doorbell or just, hanging from their garage or, so it's like everybody, their surveillance is like all around, like
Mm-hmm.
no matter what you're doing, like, I don't know, like, I just think like, I'm not, excusing any actions, but I do think, there was a time where a lot of this would just be like, unless you read the newspaper or like lived in that area where there was a blotter or something, like you weren't really going to hear about it. And that doesn't mean it didn't happen or was better then or worse now or whatever. But it just seems just like kind of like, I don't know. I get certain things happen, it's like, especially when it comes to like, domestic relationships, there's just like a lot of problems and with relationships these days in general. Just,
Mm-hmm.
we don't have the same, probably people don't have like a lot of the same family values that maybe was more traditional whatever years ago, or just with certain beliefs in people's the morals that they have.
Mm-hmm.
um outside of that, there's just a lot of like, I don't know, it does seem like there's a lot of like jackassery. And I don't know if it's just like the, you want to call it like the TikTok YouTube generation, is everything's got to be recorded and try to make a joke out of everything.
Mhm.
Cause I mean, you see these, the pranks online and stuff too. And it's like, man, if someone ever did that to me, like, oh, like it's just like, I can't imagine
Mhm.
walking up to somebody and just trying to like, throw a drink in their face and thinking that's like a prank and funny.
Yeah,
Like
no,
I'm
that's
not
not a prank.
expecting
That's just
something
being
to
an
come back
asshole.
your way. Like I just, it's kind of, so I don't know if that's part of it too. Just like you think you can do whatever, and it's like, oh, we'll just delete that tweet, or we'll just get rid of the video, and it'll be no big deal. Like that stuff doesn't go away if you delete whatever. Like somebody's either screenshot or got it, or if it's a legal issue, they can still get to that. It's not like it just disappears because you delete it off your phone.
Yeah. Well, and there might be something to that too. I guess I don't know that I'd ever really framed it that way, but there probably is too a certain level of, I guess you justify it because of the
Mhm.
mass, acceptance. Like you see all that stupid crap in a trend or whatever on social media, and then you think, oh, I'm gonna go do that too, and you think it's
Right.
okay because you've seen a million other people do it. Well, you're still just a jackass like they are. Like it's not any different. Like
They named the show that, or they named that movie that for a reason. I
yeah,
guess it was a show before it's a movie. Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it's probably like desensitized to it.
oh yeah.
Like you just like, I don't know, it's like a lot, even just the violence in general, like especially in this country. Like,
Hmm.
believe whatever you want to believe, but there's definitely a violence problem no matter where you live, and what side of that fence you're on. It gets there's a lot of kind of just like, it's not me, no big deal, like I would never do that. Well, I mean, you still gotta it's still happening, so someone's got to step up and try to solve some of these problems.
Yeah, yeah, it's a collective issue, that's for sure. Yeah, and that's the problem. I mean, you can have that mindset, that's great, and you can definitely be of right mind in your own regard, but you also have to kind of influence others too, because obviously they're being influenced by others that don't have the proper thoughts, and that's why they're doing some of these things. So yeah, it's definitely a societal issue that maybe is trickling through a little bit quicker than we think, perhaps. But it sucks to see that kind of stuff,
Well, that
and
yeah, that's my thing. It's more just like disappointing. 'Cause you're like, man, I just hate to see someone kind of throw it away just because of
mhm.
and rightfully so, if they commit some of these crimes and do some of these things. But it is just sucks to see someone throw it away after all the work that was put in to get to this point. You're just gonna kind of let a little of your emotion get the best of you, and ruin your career basically. And then what are you gonna do? Because especially being a younger, someone, if they're a younger athlete, it's not like you have a bunch of financial windfall there, and it's going to be hard to get any type of job, especially if maybe you left college early and never finished, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of factors that go into it. So that's kind of my, like, of course, like, anti any domestic violence or just any crimes that in general, but it also is like the other side too. Is like, man, what you just there's got to be better people around to help somebody if they have issues like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We got to do better as a society to make those things kind of start to go away. Hopefully, a little bit. But speaking of finishing your degree and going to school, this is kind of a good transition there.
You're welcome.
The topic I wanted to bring up, and I just thought this. I mean, we kind of alluded to folks, that we would be talking about maybe just some of our experience type things here on the program when it's kind of off season time, and this came to my mind the other day because I was having a discussion with my former boss at the radio station. I still kind of hang around, do a few things for him here and there. It's, we still have a great, relationship. And he was talking about a young guy that's, one of their interns right now that's kind of, he's done with high school. And now it's like, well, what's that next step? So he's been thinking about going to school, and going into a broadcast program. And he's kind of directly expressed interest is like, hey, I do like it here. I wouldn't mind, being a part of the team at some point. So, he kind of got thinking about it, and he's like, well, maybe there's a double solution to that too. He kind of, was talking to him about the possibilities of, maybe we help you out with, some online classes while you do things here, or, getting creative in that regard as far as, how you progress to the next step. Obviously, there's a lot of thought that goes into that, and a lot more, I guess, than just the job too for yourself, life wise, that you want to, know that you're ready to do something like that too. But I did think it was interesting just to kind of think of in the grand scheme of things, how much, sometimes some of that is worth. Because I kind of made a joke in passing, like, well, I went to school for, a real school, so to speak, when I didn't really necessarily probably need to. And at the end of the day, how much did that, make a difference? But, and I guess it's the certain parts of it, what you take away from it. Because, looking back on it, I don't regret it. I mean, I loved my time in college, and obviously made great relationships and acquaintances like you sitting here talking to you now. And then I ended up getting a chance, because I was there, to work somewhere that gave me a lot of experience and gave me an insight with working with a station there in town. So, that did lead me in a lot of right places, and I had a lot of chances on campus to do a lot of my own things too, to learn. Now, whether or not the program I necessarily needed to do, I don't know. I mean, I think there's something to that whole kind of like the trade school mentality now that we're kind of shifting to these days, because you kind of need some more of that direct attention focused training type stuff. And I think that certainly applies to the realm of broadcasting and the realm of journalism in general. There probably are smarter ways to go about it than just a general bachelor's degree. But I guess it's, up to each person and what they feel like is valuable to them. And you went through the same thing, so you want to know your perspective on it too.
Yeah, it's kind of like the thing where like you only know what you know, right? Like for me myself, like my parents never went to college, so I kind of just had to figure things out on my own. Of course, I had a older sister that went to the same university, so that helped, in few things, at least in general sense of like knowing kind of the lay of the land and that type of thing. But I was the first one in my family to kind of go into the field that ended up going into, and I like you is kind of like is more. A specialized option would have been amazing. That would have been great. But at the same time, the opportunity was probably afforded more so than maybe it would have been at a bigger, because that was always my thing. Like, should I went to a bigger school where like, like a major journalism school where you're basically guaranteed a job, but at the same time, it's like, what's the return there? Are you just going to kind of be going to be a lackey the rest of your life and just kind of like a little pissant, or you're going to kind of like make your own way and just kind of, kind of do what you want to do and find that you're kind of like happy spot there. So, and also, kind of thrown to the mix that didn't foresee coming is, my goal is, or at least my line of sight was always kind of in the newspaper business, because I wanted to be a sports writer. But that when we were kind of coming up, it was still a thing. Now newspapers are damn near extinct, and had we known that, obviously would have a different route, and kind of caught the end there of the social media was kind of just getting going, and kind of learning how to be you kind of had to be, all aspects of it wasn't just, writing. It was, it was audio and the even on camera too, So that was another, opportunity we had to do kind of everything, doing, some video production, the audio side, and then even just writing for, the campus newspaper, or just, some jobs on the side, with the website or whatever, kind of jobs you could find here and there. So, I mean, I think it just, obviously it is what it is and plays out the way it plays out. But of course, there's probably always things you may, think are what different, but, you're in the spot you're in. But I do think a specialized, especially in, this, field would be a benefit, because, like the college experience, you can't really replace it. And that's like the fun part, right? Like just learning how to be an adult, like a little bit, at least, you're most of a friggin', you're an ass for most of it. But in the end, you learn how to like, I gotta be a, contributing member to society, and just know how to like take care of yourself, and, becoming independent and not always relying on somebody else to do stuff for you. Like that's kind of, that's where you might be missing with the specialized, because you can't, no matter what school you go to, you can't really replace that. And like, you kind of think back at it and laugh at it, and it's like, but dude, like you learn a lot, like freaking living on, $50 a week, $100 a week. Like, yeah, honestly, like it does. It like, I know, it just changes your perspective on things. Like you understand like how hard it is to actually earn money and, take care of things. And I think you have a little bit more value when, maybe someone that hasn't gone through that, or just, if they're in trouble, all they had to do was make one call and there was money in their account, like it just is not the same thing. Like I'm not saying I don't now, and I don't want to have that much money in my account again, $50 or $100 or whatever it may be, waiting for that freaking, fast food check to come through. But, but it is kind of like it's a hell of a learning experience. And like for someone that's actually taking it serious, it kind of does give you a little bit of a kick in the ass and be like, I gotta make something of this, and not just kind of party your way through every day and just kind of you got to make something out of the experience. So I definitely, I mean, it's just with everything. It'd be nice to have a mix of that, but
Yeah.
that life part came from the 4-year institution, but I get, like I said, we had chances to, do a little bit, I guess you want to call it, like on the job training, but it still would have been nice to have a little bit more. I'm always taught, my wife teaches the, journalism department at the school she teaches here, and just the opportunities they have are just like amazing. Just as a high schooler, just the experience they're able to get. And I mean, they're basically, kind of like where you'd be coming out of college, going out of high school. So just the level that they're able to accomplish now is just like, oh man, that'd have been amazing to have those opportunities. Because, unless you went to like a bigger school, back when, I was in high school, and probably, same for you. Like, you didn't really have many choices. There was, maybe a yearbook class, and that was kind of the most of your journalism options. Now it's like, even the small schools got like a little TV station. I mean, YouTube or whatever have you, but there's just more opportunities now than there ever used to be.
That's true. Just the technology in general has changed it so much. Even the station I worked at, we had collaborations with schools where they would, go out and kind of do the broadcasts themselves. We taught them how to do it. They went and did it. And yeah, I would have killed for that kind of chance back, when I was a kid. I would have done that in a heartbeat. But times are different. They have those chances now, and yeah, they're probably way better off just starting off than I was to begin with. Yeah, the couple of things there, the perspective of, learning a little bit about life is definitely a huge thing. We both didn't have families where it was like, oh, they're just going to throw me 10 grand because I need it. So, and yeah, that was fun learning that. When I moved here and took this job, like, I was literally on the like last month of, oh crap, what am I gonna do? Where am I gonna live? Kind of thing. And it just happened to work out that, hey, I finally got this job, and then here I am moving on. Now, granted, I do have parents that would have made sure I wasn't like on the street, but right. But yeah, I was worried. I was kind of panic mode. But yeah, you learn a lot from that. That's for sure. That I don't disagree with that part of it. And it was nice, like you said. That was one of the major reasons I wanted to go to a smaller school. Obviously, I think both of us with our fandom, you'd have a little bit of, kind of in back of your mind that that's where you want to go just because of that part of it. But yeah, I wanted to go to a smaller school because I knew I would have more of those opportunities. I wouldn't be competing with as many people for those chances. And yeah, I mean, hell, as far as what I ended up doing for a living for a very long time, we got to do that whenever we pretty much wanted to. We went out and covered games. If we want to call a game, we went and did it. So that part was awesome. I definitely love that. So yeah, I guess it's maybe finding that, like you said, finding the right spot that's maybe a little bit of a balance of both of that. You still get a chance to kind of live the college life, so to speak, but you're also more maybe in a focused heavy program that's going to teach you more of those specific things. Like you said, we were pretty lucky that we did get to try a number of different types of mediums with the video and the writing and stuff. So that gave us a little bit of an opportunity leg up in that regard because the world was changing so much. But at the same time, yeah, there was plenty of the general gen ed stuff certainly that didn't have any bearing on whether or not I was going to be a good broadcaster. So I think
that econ class still pisses me off.
Yeah, I remember I thought I was smart because, going through high school, I think we pretty much all cheated our way through math class from one of my buddies who's still one of my great friends, learning off of him the whole way. And I signed up for, I think it was calculus, I took this class in high school. Showed up first day, I was like, yep, this is, what am I doing? This is not me, pointless. I'm just hurting myself here. This isn't going to do me any good. So, walked out of that after one day, but it's a lot of different things, I guess. But I just thought it was an interesting topic to kind of broach because that whole concept, I think in general, is changing so much, and from the education realm, and part of that's just because of finances. I mean, it costs so damn much to have that 4-year experience anymore that it's just not realistic for a lot of people, or smart at the end of the day to do that, and then all the bills that you have to pay. Now, some of that's worth it, like you said, with the life experience part of it. It gives you that little bit, but yeah, I mean, if you're only gonna pay as much per year as you might make in 2 years, the job you get, then maybe this isn't the best decision. So that whole concept is changing, and I think that's where I'm seeing that possibility becoming a little bit more of one for people in the journalism realm. When they get into like a 2-year hyper focused type program, is probably going to be more of where it's at down the road, and especially like you said, because they have that leg up too from potential high school experience.
Yeah, it's one of those industries where it's kind of all about experience. It's you can only read a book so much. Like, I mean, you don't have a paper. You do a project, you do a portfolio, you do an audio, a commercial, whatever. Like it's a little bit unique in that sense. And a lot of it is too just there's a lot of good talented people in the industry just been beaten down and kind of given up because it's like you do all this work and quality products and you get paid crap and you got to work every holiday. You don't get any weekend off. So that's the other side of it. And then you got a lot of just friggin' ass wipes that are getting jobs that have no business getting these jobs. So that's the other side of it too. Maybe that's a topic we could expand on another thing, but that's also like, kind of part of why a lot of people are just leaving the industry.
Yeah, I think that's two other aspects of it that we can probably dive into on the upcoming shows, is the whole quality of job life, work life thing, that's part of the realm. And it obviously it's not exclusive to journalism, but it very much so is a deal. And then also the pay and quality of being able to get a job when you think you are pretty good at it. That's a whole another deal too. So we'll probably put those on the slate to talk more about down the road. I just thought that was a fun place to start, and it'll be interesting to see for that gentleman in particular, and for some others, if that starts to happen a little bit, you start to see that a little bit from some of these guys that do get some college or high school type experience, and then maybe they get an opportunity at a local outlet, and that's where they start rather than going the educational route too. So there's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say, but it's interesting to talk about the different ways to go about it, and certainly our experience kind of fits into that one way or another. If you have any kind of input, or if you have an experience that you want to tell us about in that regard too, that you feel like kind of fits the mold, or you think was a positive or negative, let us know. I'd love to kind of expand on that topic a little bit further too as we move along. So hope you reach out to us in one way or another, and you can do that through social media. Twitter at SJMBets, at Cherokee CP. That's where you can find us. And of course, that's where when we have picks to make, we'll give you picks there. And then, of course, follow us on all the different platforms for the show. We're available in all the major outlets, whether that be Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, YouTube. And then, of course, we do some video stuff with the YouTube channel as well. So we hope you find a way to interact with us and reach out to us along the way. So I hope you enjoyed this one. We'll catch you next time around. That's S.J. Munoz. I'm Chris Parks. Thanks for joining us for another week of Everyday We're Covering. We'll see you next week for some more covers.